If you're scared to ask for money for your Catholic nonprofit or fundraiser, stop thinking of it as asking for money. Let's back up and ask why you're afraid in the first place, and then address that so that the fear can hopefully go away. Okay, so someone might say, I'm afraid because of the responsibility. Like deep down, they actually don't want to have the responsibility that comes with taking people's money, right? Especially if they're friends, people that you care about, and you're afraid of messing up. With this kind of a fear, you just sort of have to accept that you are limited, you're not perfect, you are going to make mistakes, and you should also realize that people around you know that. You need to have a lower opinion of yourself because chances are your friends don't think as highly of you as you think of yourself in this area, which kind of sucks, but also means you can take the pressure off of yourself in that sense. Okay, but the thing that most people are going to say is, it's just uncomfortable and, I don't like rejection. Okay. Yes, it's uncomfortable asking for money, right? Because everyone is weird about money. And that's a topic for a different video. But what about rejection? What's the thing going on with rejection? Of course, it sucks to get rejected. That's just a thing that is unpleasant. But what's really happening here is not usually simply a fear of rejection in and of itself, although that can motivate people. The thing that's really going on is a fear of what the rejection means. First, it corresponds to your ego. You don't want to hear the real market feedback, the objective feedback that what you're doing isn't worth my money, right? You don't want to get that feedback because maybe it means you've been wasting your time. Maybe it means you're going in the wrong direction. Maybe it means that you're unintelligent. Maybe it means that your values aren't right. It could mean these things, right? And that's not comfortable to grapple with and to hear. So it's about the ego, the implication that I may not be perfect. I may not have my values sorted out. I may not be doing the work as well as I could be or as others are doing. And that sucks. But also, it could be a critique of the work in and of itself. Like, why would you be trying to do this thing? Why would you be trying to raise funds for this cause instead of another one? Or why aren't you working with this other group? They're better than you. Okay, so the ego is one of the big things. And you need to work on this in prayer and the sacraments and realizing once again that people probably don't think as highly of you as you think of yourself. And that's a real gut punch. If you want to go out and get the feedback from the market and experience over and over and over again that you don't have product market fit with your philanthropy, then okay, you can do that. And you probably should do that and need to do that. It's just part of growing as a fundraiser is getting the real harsh, cold shower dose of reality that you're not as good as you think you are. But the second thing that makes people afraid of rejection in terms of the meaning of the rejection, I would argue is bigger and more important. And that's the relationship being threatened. Probably if you're making a one-to-one ask, it's with people that you know, people that you probably care about, and they're either going to be old friends or they're going to be new friends. If you're soliciting funds generally, in public or on social media, the same thing applies, but just, the volume is turned down a bit because it's a little more anonymous. You're behind a screen, they're behind a screen. It's not the same as when you're standing there talking to someone saying, will you give money to my nonprofit or to my crowdfunding campaign for this cause? What you're afraid of is being perceived as an exploiter. You don't want to be perceived as someone who uses their friends to get money. You don't want to offend your friends and then threaten the relationship that you have with them, right? That's the thing that you're afraid of. So this is a good thing in the sense that you care about your friendship, you care about your relationship with this person, right? You don't want them to feel used, you don't want them to stop talking to you because you actually genuinely care about being their friend. And in the long term, nurturing that friendship, especially with wealthier people, first is a good thing to do in general because actually the wealthier someone is, the more they need real friends. Like it's hard to have real friends when you have a lot of money. But second, people want to give to their friends. So even though it feels very sleazy, you're going to find way more success talking to your close friends about money and asking them to give you money than you will with people that you don't really know or care about, because that means they probably don't really know or care about you. So you're afraid that your new friends will feel tricked, right? You know, like, oh, this person introduced themselves to me. They've been taking me to lunch. They've been getting to know me just to ask me for money, right? And that sucks. And your old friends, you know, especially if you haven't talked to them in a while, they'll feel like, you know, underappreciated. Getting beyond these fears is important because if you don't get past them, you're never going to get around to the ask. You're never going to actually ask for money if you can't get over these fears. And if you just want to be really lazy and have a donate button on your website or just throw in a donate thing in your mailing list or whatever, you're not going to do very well, right? What people really want is to be asked directly for money in a one-to-one conversation. That's what people actually want, even though that seems counterintuitive. Okay, put yourself in the shoes of your potential donor. Okay, your friend that you've been talking to for, let's say, you know, a couple of years. They know about you and your work. They haven't really made any significant gifts yet. Maybe they've given something small, uh, but you're looking for a major gift from them. You know that they've got money. You know that they're interested in the kind of things that you're working on. Okay, if you're that person, what is going to feel better if you're given an email that everyone else is getting who's signed up for the email list saying, please give us money, or setting up a meeting, or at least having a one-to-one conversation where you ask them, do you value our work enough to make a gift, like a significant one? Now, obviously, it can depend on, you know, their own personality and their own temperament, whatever, and their circumstances, their mood that day, the weather, whatever. But most people who have wealth are going to like being treated as someone who could potentially make a big impact. They know that they're a playmaker. They know that they can make a very big impact on your work, on your nonprofit. And so they know that they deserve the one-to-one attention from you, the founder, the president, whatever, of the nonprofit, of the crowdfunding campaign, of the project. And if you're trying to farm it out to, you know, like a fundraising director or whatever, that's probably a mistake. If you're watching this video, you know, you're not the Red Cross, you're not UNICEF, you're not some massive, massive trust or whatever. Okay, probably don't do that. It's got to be you, right? You are the nonprofit. I'll have another video talking about when it's time to hire someone to manage your fundraising. But the point is, people who know that they can make an impact want to be treated with the dignity that accords with that power. They want to be wined and dined. It's how it is, right? And you have to be sensitive to the particular culture that they're from. It's not the same in Italy as it is in America. You know, you've got to kind of figure out some of the particulars yourself. But you do have to make a one-to-one ask to get major gifts 99% of the time. Here's another consideration that could be helpful. When someone makes a gift to you and to your nonprofit, to your fundraiser, they're getting something back. They're getting an experience. They're maybe getting you to go away, which is something you definitely don't want, right? But probably what they're looking for in return is the impact that your organization or your fundraiser is having on the world. And they also want meaning. Those are the two things that really, really matter in fundraising: impact and meaning. That's what they're buying, okay? And it is like a sale. They're giving you money to create impact and to create meaning. That's what they want. So, what you're doing when you're asking this person for money is inviting them into an opportunity that is valuable to them. And you've got to keep that in mind. If you're really, really afraid to ask for money, you're creating something that could be very valuable for them. So, reframe the ask as a sale. What you're selling is impact and meaning. And then you take their money, but reframe that taking their money as creating an opportunity for your friend to be involved in your work. This mindset can help you overcome the fear of asking for donations, not in an email campaign, not in your website where there's no real friction or tension or awkward couple of seconds where they're thinking about it and evaluating you and looking into your eyes like, did you really just ask me for that much money? No, you've got to do it. You've got to get over the fear. You've got to get over the awkwardness. You've got to get over, the potential rejection and all the things that that might mean. Okay. True and untrue, by the way. Like maybe they think your work is terrible. Maybe they think that you're not the right fit for it. They could be wrong about that. But if you're getting that feedback again and again and again and again, probably there's something to think about there. But if you keep these things in mind, it's going to help you make the ask. And then, of course, the follow up is very important. You don't just walk away, you need to invite that person into your work. Okay. And the more that they give, the more you've got to get them involved. So don't be afraid, unless, of course, your work actually is bad, in which case you should be embarrassed, right? And you should go work on fixing your nonprofit's operations or fixing the way that you are doing your work.